love the scarf.
I'm freezing.
And I think the viewers love the scarf too. Welcome to the Slice Tennis Podcast, where we talk about fashion, we talk about scarves, but most importantly, we talk about tennis. And we do so because of our great sponsors over at Betway. This show is presented by Betway. And guys, y'all know the drill. Leave a comment to me and Stephen about anything going on in the tennis world right now. And in the next episode, we will 99% sure take your comment, react to it, give it a shout out. So leave your comments so we can shout it out in the next episode. Leave whatever you want. We're not restraining you from anything. This is a free speech channel. Say whatever you want. It could be mean, could be nice, could be funny, but do your thing. But we have an awesome show for you today. And we're going to talk about the tournaments coming up this week. They're happening. Denis's unreal run in Dallas. Alcaraz getting his indoor championship, his first one, I think, on the hard courts. It's like I saw some tweet that this was his first. He's now won a major level tournament on every single surface in every thing, I guess including indoor. But
yeah, indoor hard.
And then we talk about Stephen, who was recently they tried to throw him in jail for his comments last week.
I might be arrested if I set foot in South America. I might be arrested on site. I'm not sure.
Yeah, so we'll get into all of that. But I do think the first thing we want to hit is our best bet of the day, which is presented by Betway. And you will hit an ace with Betway and get a free bet up to $200 if your first bet loses, plus $50 or plus 50 bonus spins no matter the result. Scan the QR code on the screen or click on the link in the details section to create an account and redeem your welcome offer. Offer is only available for new customers. Terms and conditions apply. Offer not available in Ontario. Must be 18 and up. Please play responsibly. Best bets. The freaking best bet of the year was Denis Future last week in Dallas.
That would have been crazy. I don't even think I looked at that one. I did throw out a couple. I did throw out a couple stinkers last week. I think I said Alex Mickelson to win Dallas at plus 2,000. That shows you what you're going to get if you bet on an American. And I also picked Daniil Medvedev to win Rotterdam, who looks completely checked out. But I also, he's got 2 kids now. I get it. He's probably tired.
Right. He's busy. But that was last week. What do we have this week?
But to be fair, that was last week. And then coming into the finals of Dallas and Rotterdam, I picked Denis to win. I picked Denis to win in 2 sets over Casper Ruud, which hit. And that was
huge.
Plus 230, I think. And then I picked Alcaraz to win, which wasn't a crazy pick. But, ADM, Alex de Minaur, he is dangerous. But so best bet that I've got right here, which might be close to being done by the time the show goes live. But we got Joao Fonseca playing in home country, Buenos Aires. I'm hoping I have that right. Sometimes I get it mixed up. Is this Buenos Aires? Is that in Argentina or is that in Brazil?
Argentina.
Oh, so I'm getting it mixed up. Anyways, Joao Fonseca from Brazil, superstar, is playing in South America, which I think he's going to be, kind of universally loved there. Anyways, he's playing. Oh no, where is it now?
While you're looking for
Thomas Echeverry. So this could actually be crazy if you think about it. So
yeah,
Thomas Echeverry is from Argentina. Joao Fonseca is from Brazil. Echeverry is an experienced ATP player. Fonseca is the future. So the crowd, I think, would be crazy. It'd be like one of those derby matches in the South America, and the odds are plus 100 for Echeverry and minus 125 for Fonseca. So they are not confident in Fonseca, and it's really tight. So it's about as close as it could get. Sorry, JP, what were you going to say?
Oh, I was good. Just to fill in some dead space. What I was trying to say about Alcaraz earlier was this was his first ever indoor title.
Right. Yes. He doesn't like indoor. He likes it when there's wind and there's chaos, and he can be like the airbender out there.
We all look better in the sun.
That's true. Yeah, especially him. But yeah, I think that's a fun bet, and I think this tournament's going to be fun to be around as, if Fonseca wins and gets through that, because it's a lot of these, Kyrgios in the past has called them the rats, exterminate the dirt rats.
Yeah.
This is like that swing, these tournaments that seem kind of like we're heading towards, we got a, Indian Wells, Miami before the clay swing. So it's kind of like a little mini clay random tournament here.
Right.
But Fonseca versus Echeverry, I think would be crazy to watch. And kind of good value on both those guys.
It would be absolute scenes. That sounds like an amazing best bet of the day. But Stephen, if I want to go watch this match, this banger match going down in Argentina, where would I watch it?
Well, sir, you would go to our friends at Tennis TV right here, and you would subscribe using the link below, and you would get to then take part of what we are currently experiencing in frantic February. 350 matches live and on demand on Tennis TV for $20 a month. I mean, what more do you want? Like, how cheap? Just my question is, how cheap do you want it to be per match? We know you sickos who watch the slice. If you watch the slice, you're awesome. You're a tennis fan, but you're slightly loose a little bit when it comes to how much time you're devoting to a sport, which I respect and I love.
Right.
So if you're going to do that, you might as well have the best streaming service out there, and the only one that's the official streaming service of the ATP Tour, which is Tennis TV, and it's the official streaming service of the Slice. So hit the link below and sign up and become a better tennis fan today. Thank you very much.
Let's go. I love it.
Was that convincing?
That was convincing. If obviously I'm already a customer. If I wasn't, the first thing I would be doing is going to the description. I would minimize my screen because I'll be watching this full screen right now, whether it be on my phone, on my TV. I would minimize it, scroll down, click the link, and then the rest is history. My card number's in. They have all the info they need on me. I'm getting promotions in my emails every week.
Let's go. Can't be too close to the action.
Sometimes you can be too close to the action, Stephen, because I was a little bit too close to the action this past week.
Yes. This is, for those watching, the thing I'm most excited about this whole show is not me getting roasted by South Americans, which I do love. I want to hear about JP's week in Louisiana. Sorry.
New Orleans, man.
Is that in Louisiana?
It is. It is in Louisiana.
Okay. The home of Lil Wayne and the home of some maybe foodborne illnesses. JP, what happened to you this last week during Super Bowl week down south?
It's amazing because we have actually traced it back to a different moment than the oysters.
Oh my gosh.
Because we get down to New Orleans. For those that don't know, the Super Bowl happened this past week. I was down there for my full-time job. We're doing media stuff there, interviewing different athletes, different actors, going around doing all the fun stuff. Super Bowl week is the best week for media in America. Like, if you don't have a job, you need to book your plane ticket to Super Bowl week and you just network. And I promise you, you will leave a job. Like, it's a sports fan's dream, and a young professional's dream, which is cool. But we got down there on a Monday. We were supposed to go to the opening night media day, which we thrive at on our other channel. We ask a lot of fun questions to the athletes, and it's questions you shouldn't be asking them. This year, Jameis Winston took our shine because we messed up. We didn't get in. So it's like, all right, week's off to a bad start, but we bounce back. It's not about what happens to you. It's about how you respond to what happens to you. So the next day we show up, we secure the credential, but when we go to the team hotel, we can't get in because it's the wrong credential. So we're like, okay, well, this is an L. So what I failed to mention was on Monday, we also went to go eat some oysters.
Bad choice.
Bad choice. And Monday night, Tuesday morning, some articles are starting to circulate. Bad batch of oysters are in New Orleans. Everybody be careful of these certain spots. The spot we went to was on this list. We're like, oh God. But we're still all feeling fine. It's like if it happened, we would already be feeling sick. So it's Tuesday. We go to the French Quarter, one of the most historic pieces of land in America. We're walking around. We're trying to take it all in. And this is where we learned that it was not the oysters that eventually got us sick. We go into this store that's a witch store or a vampire store. And we walk in, this lady is sitting behind the counter and she has a witch hat on. She has face tattoos. She has all this stuff. She's like, guys, welcome into the vampire shop. Did you know New Orleans has the largest community of vampires in the world? Like, oh no. One of our guys asked her, oh, that's cool. Like, are you a vampire? She goes, no, I'm not a vampire. Why would I be working the day shift if I'm a vampire? I'm just a witch that works with the vampires. Like, oh yeah,
Duh.
my bad. That was dumb. Like, well, obviously. So, we're walking around, we're seeing the stuff. She's like whispering facts. Then they have this like little wishing well, and there's a witch over this wishing well. Taylor, he goes and grabs some quarters, and I'm filming him, and he makes a wish, puts his coin in the thing. He looks at me, he goes back, he takes the quarter out of the thing that he had just wished on, and he goes, I didn't like my first wish. I'm going to make a different one. I'm like, bro, that's it. Like, I'm like, you can't do that. He's like, what do you mean? Like, I have to. I'm like, no, like, you should have known when you're 4 years old, this is bad luck. He's like, no, it's going to be fine. He puts the coin back in, makes a wish. And 30 minutes later, I feel my stomach start curling. I'm like, this isn't good. And I make it about another hour and a half. And then, we finished our tour. I'm feeling sick. We're supposed to be somewhere that night. I text in the group chat as I'm laying just on the floor in this hotel, which, by the way, there's like mold by the air vents and like all of this crazy crap. It's just like, it's gross. I'm laying on the floor. I shoot the text like, guys, I don't think I'm going to be able to make it tonight. I'm either going to be spending the rest of the night pooping or throwing up. Like, I'll let you know. And then from 7:30 to like 3:30, throw up, sit on the toilet, diarrhea, back down, throw up. Bro, I was leaking out of both sides of my body, both ends of my body.
That is insane.
You know how it is when you're throwing up, you're never closer to God than you are in those moments. I'm just begging. Like, God, I'm so sorry. Like, I don't know what I did. I know I've done a lot of bad things. I'm a sinner, but please, I promise you, I will write my life if you could just take this illness out of me. And then God said, I'm not done.
Oh my gosh.
And then we had to go through the rest of the week. Like, you don't sleep. I didn't have appetite the rest of the week. And it was just, it was a grind. But we were here now. We made it. Had my first TMI for everybody. I had my first solid doo-doo yesterday, which is almost a week removed.
Wow. So you trace it back to the witching well, not the oysters.
I'm going to trace it back to the witching well. Because, with food poisoning, like, usually your brain has that, like, connection to the food that got you sick.
Yeah.
So, like, I got sick. The last time I was sick, I barely ever get sick. I got food poisoning in New York like 2 to 3 years ago.
Yeah.
And it was this spring roll. And I didn't have my first spring roll until like a couple months ago. But I think if I went to a restaurant and oysters were put in front of me, I don't have like that same block.
Interesting. But I mean, like, when you guys said oysters in Louisiana, I was like, that's it. Like, to no disrespect, but that like murky ocean water down there, I was like, what are you guys doing? You got to come up to Vancouver Island where I am, get this crisp, clean, cold oysters from the clear water up here. Like,
it has to be so good.
Yeah. But wow. Well, I'm glad you made it. And I still think if all those things that happened to you, you still had a better time than the Kansas City Chiefs did last night.
The Kansas City Chiefs got the butt whooping they've been deserving all year.
So good for all the haters for Kansas City. It's just, that was their Super Bowl win. Even if they weren't an Eagles fan, that was their Super Bowl win.
And Tom Brady, who's calling the game, is just sitting there.
Yeah.
This guy, this is your champion. He's not the GOAT. Tom Brady bought himself a few more decades as the GOAT.
Just quickly, JP, as a football guy, like, what happened? Like, I don't even, like, I was just kind of not really watching, to be honest. And then, like, did the Kansas City Chiefs choke?
All that happened was the Kansas City Chiefs lost the line of scrimmage. The Eagles D-line had their way with the O-line. They did not blitz one time. What do I mean by that? For everyone listening that you're thinking about turning this off, this is going to be quick. On the D-line, there's 4 people. A blitz, you just bring one extra person. That's what all it takes to be considered a blitz. Not once did they ever rush more than 4 people. So that makes it a whole lot harder on Patrick Mahomes because everybody's covered, all the space, all the zones are taken up, and the D-line is still getting back there and just making Mahomes' life miserable.
Right.
It was
so like they
it
weren't
was
blitzing, but they were still sacking Mahomes and getting through. And yeah, that was crazy. Every time I looked up, he was getting like a pass like ripped out of his hand, or you get him getting like two-handed shoved in the face, and like not as many whistles, which I loved.
not. Hey, they got that first whistle on the first play.
I saw that. I was like, oh my gosh, here we go.
The Eagles said no, sir. So
Fly, Eagles, fly.
my mic got muted.
All good. You know, you're talking about spooky things. You're talking about witches. You're talking about Kansas City Chiefs forgetting how to play football. Things happen.
What happened with you this past week?
I had a pretty chill week. I did play tennis. I had a buddy in town who's a good tennis player, so I was back on the court getting my grind going. Got some fresh strings in there. Who I should shout out, but I'll actually put out who they were. I'll give a full review on the YouTube. But yeah, I was able to play some tennis. I'm thinking about going back to a two-handed backhand. Ever since I knew I wasn't going anywhere with tennis, I went to a one-hander because it's way more fun to play with. But the older I get, the more I just want to win matches. I don't want to like, be out there trying to hit beautiful shots, but like losing matches on the way. I want to grind.
Right.
So I'm thinking about it, but my one-hander is nice. So, I'm trying to figure that out. But that was fun. I had a buddy in town. That was great. And now my parents are in town visiting, hanging out with my wife, my son, and my dog. And my son last night actually had his first like wipeout. And he's not even 5 months old yet. So you're thinking like child abuse, like what's happening? But he was like, there's actually a younger baby in our family who's like 3 weeks old. So my son feels like a toddler at this point. He feels so big compared to him. But I had him on the ground. I just put him on the ground on his belly, and he's kind of like wiggling around. Like he looks like he wants to start crawling, and he like pushed himself up. So he's like kind of holding himself up like that. And like look like, I was like, are you gonna move your hand forward and like kind of crawl? And he's like about to, and he was just like face plant. And then he just started crying. It was like the first time he's ever kind of like cried from injuring himself. And it was like, I felt I should have been like catching his head, but it was also kind of funny, and he's obviously fine. But
did he remind you of the South Americans?
Yeah. Bro, I was like Christian Guerin.
Like, yo, chef, we did not name you Christian Guerin. Please get up.
Please get up, brother. Please wipe away those tears. You are fine. Oh man, that's good. But we'll get to that. Don't worry, Latin folks, Latin audience, South American audience. Keep watching. We are going to address your comments at the end of this video. But yeah, that was pretty much my week. Chill week, watching tennis, watching Denis win, which I think we should maybe. We'll take a look at next week what's happening. But yeah, watching the Dallas Rotterdam tournaments and having a good time doing that. So pretty chill week, I would say.
Yeah. What is going on next week? They actually wait real quick before next week. Did you beat your friend?
Yeah, we didn't play any like matches. There's like 3 of us, and they're actually both like my friend Johnny. This is a test to see if they're watching. He's probably the best tennis player out of the 3 of us. He was like nationally and provincially ranked. And he's like 6'4" and he's jacked, so he can hit ATP serves like straight up, and it's so it's tough. Like, but we were just playing kind of King's Court, best of 5 serve feeding it in. Mm-hmm. And I was winning actually against both of them a few times. And, but it's all pretty equal, I would say. But I was happy that I held my own, and they were probably sad that I beat them both like multiple times. So
yeah, you're like, I do this professionally, please.
I do this. And I didn't even have a hat or a hoodie. So it was like, my hair's kind of long now. So there was hair in my face and I was still beating them. So that felt good. And they've been playing more than I had.
I love that. Big dubs. This week, what do we have going on this week? I believe there's some guys in France.
Yeah, we got a few good tournaments. We've got, I kind of think I know them off the top of my head. We got Marseille, France. So we got 3 250s going on right now on the WTA. We got Marseille, ATP 250. Who do we got there? We've got Daniil Medvedev, late entry wild card. So he's trying to turn it around. He's trying to be like, bro, I got to stop losing. I'm going to go play another indoor hard court in France here in the Marseille. Small draws, only 32 players. Love to see it. Hugo Humbert is the 2nd seed. We've also got Delray Beach. Yeah. So that's a tournament I've been to before. Taylor Fritz is the number 1 seed. Tommy Paul was going to be the number 2 seed, but he pulled out because I did think he might have been and this is not an excuse for losing, but I did think he might have been slightly compromised against Chapo, and I didn't hear that from his coach, which I could have asked, but he just pulled up a couple times in some points, and I was like, that was a physical match from the way Tommy played or the way Chapo played. But our guy Gabriel Diallo is there in actually with just a straight up main draw entry in Del Rey, which we love to see. And then there's Buenos Aires, Argentina.
Dude, did you see who's playing in that?
Yeah, I tweeted that out. There's some big stars.
Oh wait, actually, I'm tripping. I'm thinking of a different tournament.
No, well, there is big stars here. If you like, Zverev's the number 1 seed,
right?
Holger Rune is the number 2 seed, and Joao Fonseca's there, and Lorenzo Mussetti's there. So to me, for a 250, that is a crazy lineup.
Insane lineup for a 250. I was getting ahead of myself. I was thinking of the Rio Open in Brazil. Did you see who got the wild card?
No, who?
Caruso
into the main draw or into qualifying?
The ATP 500. I
think it might be qualifying, but that's still crazy.
Yeah, let me see, because they gave him. Yeah, he tweeted it out. Let's see.
Either way, yeah. But that is crazy because he's big time, and that's a smart move if I'm giving out wild cards because he's got a huge social media following. So
yeah, that's like the people's champion, especially if you can give him somewhat of like a matchup where he might have a chance if he plays out of his mind to win. Like the place would go nuts and the internet would go crazy.
Yeah, and honestly, he would because he's ranked, I believe, inside the top 300 now. And yeah, so he got a wild card into qualifying, according to Jose Morgado.
Gotcha.
But yeah, that's a big move there. Caru, if you're watching, clearly or not, but the invite is out. We would love to have you on the show and talk about all this. That's a cool one to see. Nice find there, JP.
He's ranked 271 right now.
Right. So he's trying to get into that zone where he can qualify.
Right.
The qualifying for majors, which I believe is usually around like 250.
Yeah.
So 250. I think he was just outside of it for the Australian Open. But anyways, and then on the WTA side, there's actually a WTA 1000 in Doha that's ongoing, and Canadian Leila Fernandez just beat Emma Navarro. So there's a theme here I'm noticing: Canadians beating Americans right now. 6-2, 6-2 in an hour and 6 minutes.
She must be hurt. Navarro must be hurt.
No, bro, that's called the chopping. That's what we call that. That's what we call that in the Great White North. We're all a bunch of loggers up here. It's called chopping. It's
I like
what
that.
Is that like the Cleveland Guardians chop?
Yeah. Florida State Seminoles. I love that.
Anyways, that's what's going on this week, man. But let's talk about Denis in Dallas. Denis does Dallas. What were your thoughts on our guy going all the way through that draw, beating a lot of Americans and winning that title? It's his biggest title ever, and it's got to feel good for him based on what we talked about in our interview. So, yeah, what was your thoughts?
And we were just talking about rankings, too. Denis don't got to worry about any of it. That man he's seeded now at the big tournaments.
Yeah.
So we love that for him. And to go back to also what you were saying with Denis beating 3 Americans, I put the tweet out there. I said, look, I always root for the Americans unless they're playing Denis. So to Tommy Paul, to Fritz, to everybody involved, I'm sorry, but that's just the way it is. I don't make the rules. I just
until you come on the show, we're gonna have to go with the guys that do.
Right, exactly. And that goes for everyone across the board. And the guys that do come on the show, they tend to win titles.
That's right. That's
3 titles
right.
so far.
Correct. I was going to say we should talk about it. The Slice Bump TM. Those 3 titles are from who? Which titles are those, JP? Just to remind the players who are thinking about coming on.
Let's see. You got to tell me the titles. I know Felix has 2 of them.
Felix has 2 of them. Denis has 1 of them. Felix won in, let's see if I can remember, Adelaide, and then Montpellier, 2 ATP 250s. And Denis has just won in Dallas. And again, we just talked to them at the beginning of January, like really over Christmas. So while in the off season, both guys come on the Slice, they get the Slice Bump, and now they're shooting up the rankings, winning titles. And anyways, that's free service at this point, but we might start charging. That's what I'm saying.
Right. Yeah, like we're going to be getting percentages off the
Correct.
purse. But what I want to know, what you think of Denis's level, the level he played at this tournament. Where do you think that level ranks in the? Like I believe that's like a top 5 level.
Yeah, like I mean, it's kind of hard to argue that because he beat 2 top 5 guys and a top
Yeah.
10er. So, like Taylor Fritz is 4 in the world and Casper Ruud's 5 in the world. So the interesting thing is, and what people pointed out is, people go crazy. I said that. I said, Denis Shapovalov obviously showed top 10 level this week, beating 3 top 10 guys. So he, if he can play this way consistently, which is what ranking's about, he'll clearly should be in the top 10 comfortably. And he's been there before. He's been in the top 10. So it's not really controversial to say that. What people have pointed out is there's a pretty big delta between beating top 10 guys and then beating Sinner or Alcaraz on a hard court or any court right now. But that's fine. Let's see what Shapovalov, how he keeps playing and with the confidence from this week. And then if he's confident playing against those guys, I'd like to see it. No one's immune, and the shot making and the brutality of his game this week was really incredible.
Because I'm looking at the top 5 right now, and you have Ruud, Fritz, Alcaraz, Zverev, and Sinner. When you compare Denis's game to Ruud, Fritz, and Zverev, I feel like it's a way better matchup against Sinner and Alcaraz than those other 3 because of the shot making, the speed, the power. Like he's just is so much more crafty than those other 3 guys.
Right. Yeah. Like it would be. Yeah. Like he's got more weapons than Ruud for sure, and he's more aggressive than Zverev from the baseline for sure.
Right.
And I always think in tennis, the very best offense beats the best defense.
Yeah.
And so that's my markers for that has always been when Federer's playing the best tennis he can play, I always believe he beat Djokovic or Nadal almost every time. It's hard to play that good of offensive tennis. You have to take so much risk, and you would see him hit a ton of winners and a lot of unforced errors in every match. So the way Shapovalov played there, it's like really hard to imagine somebody like out defensing him. Maybe Sinner, maybe Djokovic, and then maybe that's where it gets harder for Denis to like keep that level up but Fritz isn't that guy who's going to defend like that. Ruud can be, I think, more on a clay court. He can defend like that. He couldn't really do it on the quick hard court in Dallas. And then yeah, against Sinner and Alcaraz, it's a whole different beast because they have so many offensive weapons that they can hurt Shapovalov just as much as he can hurt them. So then it becomes a whole nother like web of things where it's really like you're gonna have to prepare. And to be fair, Fritz had a great first set, and Denis wasn't hanging with him, and then he was able to. Then maybe Fritz's level dropped a little bit, so he has the offensive weapons, but to kind of outgun maybe Shapovalov, but still, like Shapo is taking it so early and hitting it so clean.
His drop shots too this week were just on the money. Like against Ruud, I think 3 of them like grazed the top of the net.
Yeah, and I think he's added that to his game to a higher degree because when we were interviewing him, he talked about, Alcaraz being able to find that balance between playing ultra aggressive and being consistent. And what does Alcaraz do better than anyone? Hit these drop shots because he's showing the forehand, drops it soft. So I think when Denis has been all this time off with his injury, he's probably watching that being like, I should hit more drop shots. Right. Yeah, in Dallas, he was using that super effectively against everyone. Tommy Paul, one of the fastest players on tour. He's like, you got to respect the Shapo forehand, drop it short. Against Ruud, against Mahach. Yeah, the drop shot was awesome this week.
Drop shot was awesome. And I like he was so much more mentally strong than like any other tournament I've seen because there was, I don't know, maybe it was against Ruud or wherever he was in the tiebreak in his first set and he like went down 3-0 quick in the tiebreak. Usually,
might have been it.
Yeah, like usually that's it. It's like that tiebreak's over like because something weird happened, but obviously Denis goes on to win that tiebreak. And I also noticed in the Ruud match when Ruud was getting a little bit of momentum and the crowd was starting to cheer for Casper. Yeah. And Denis like made a few mistakes, but then he hits just like I can't remember if it was a missile of a forehand or a serve, and then he just turns to the crowd and he's like you basically, where y'all at? Where y'all at? And I'm like, dude, like you're not unraveling, like you're staying calm, and then you're picking your moment to like let it loose.
Yeah, and that I love that from him, and that must have been a game plan for him, was just kind of stay muted out there, like fist bump me with his coach whenever something's good happening is that's good. But yeah, just when things like he got down love 30 a lot of times, because I don't think he really got his serve broken in the last 3 matches. I could be wrong about that, but I don't think he did. And he would go down love 30 a couple times, and you're like, okay, if he goes down love 40, this is it. And he might start to get frustrated. He didn't get frustrated, and then whenever he needed it, banged an ace. Like his serving this week was another part of his game that was so good for him and so relieving as just a pressure reliever in those moments against your own serve. He hit 12 aces in the first set against Casper Ruud. That's 3 games worth of just aces. Like, and that's not even accounting the first serves that didn't come back against Ruud, or the first serves that he had like an easy next ball on. So all these things lined up: his mental game, his aggressive play, and the quality. And like you said, like I think he really puts the tour on notice, like being like, a lot of these guys who are in the top 20, like if he's playing his best, it's going to be really hard to hang with him for those guys. Right. And he proved that this week. And it's kind of like, I didn't want to, this is something I did in my reaction video to it yesterday, JP. I didn't want to like overhype the result for him in a way. Like, not that I like, I don't want to hide, like let's celebrate it. Yeah, it is the biggest title of his career, but it's kind of like, that's what his game will do when it's working. Right. He's also been to people forget he's been to the semifinals of Wimbledon, which I think if you had to compare the two, you'd probably take the semifinals of Wimbledon. For sure. So he's been there, and he deserves to be there with the game quality that he has. So Dallas to the 500 there is like, oh, that's the proof in the pudding of the work he's been putting in since his injury. Right. So that's why it's got to feel so good. But it's like, this isn't the pinnacle of his career.
Not at all.
It's like getting back, and this is like the step in the right direction. So that's kind of how I wanted to set it up.
Right. Like this could truly be like the baseline of his career, like making ATP 500 semifinals, finals consistently, and then it not being a surprise when he makes a run at a Masters or a Grand Slam.
Correct. But I didn't mean to cut you off. Like put him in that group now with guys like, because the ATPs, it's interesting how it's shifting out, right? There's the different tiers. Like you got Sinner and Alcaraz, I think, are their own tier right now. Right. Djokovic is obviously still like, he's like the guru dojo. He can come back and beat anyone whenever he needs. But then you got the next group of guys who are like, they haven't won a major, but they can definitely beat a lot of guys. And they're like, so I would put guys there like Fritz, Musetti, Tommy Paul. Right. Throw Shapovalov right in there. Like, Casper Ruud, Zverev, all the guys who are next up, and because go back to 2017, 2018, and I said this last night, if you told me that back then in 2025, Denis Shapovalov is winning the Dallas Open ATP 500, I'd be like, yeah, of course he is. Yeah. Like at that point, we're all like, yeah, will he have won a major since then? How far up the tree? But right. The professional sports is crazy. You get a knee injury, you can't play sports without your knee. Like so this isn't that crazy. And now you really, I think if he stays consistent, which people are like doubting that if he could, it's like, when's the last time he played 5 matches in a row like that?
Exactly.
That's being consistent. That's really hard to do. And so, if, I think by the end of his year, his goal for top 10 is completely achievable. And the rate he's already on is insane. So he's going to be in that group in the mix to win tournaments for the rest of this year, I think. And that makes tennis more exciting for sure.
Yeah, I mean, everybody, like, Tennis TV, all the different accounts, they love when Denis is playing well because they love sharing his clips. All the down the line backhands, everything.
Bro, his passing, like there's some of those passing shots he was hitting this week. He was making Casper come in, and then Casper would or he would pass Casper up the line at the backhand, and Casper's just like shaking his head at his camp, like, what do I got to do, bro?
Yeah, dude, you hope that. It would be so cool if this was like the full turning point of like everything clicks for him. And it's like, I feel like it's like in basketball when you just like, you need to see one go through. It's like, he just saw his one go through and now he's locked in.
Yeah.
So we love to see it, bro.
Super good. Yeah. And for someone who's been doing it consistently for years now, Alcaraz gets the win in Rotterdam over your guy, Alex de Minaur.
I know.
Did you think that de Minaur had it in him to beat him this week?
Of course, I thought he had it in him just because I believe in de Minaur more than I believe in most players for whatever reason. I just feel that connection to him. But when you know that Alcaraz, similar to how I was feeling with Alcaraz during the Australian Open, he hasn't won it, so you're more intrigued. Like, okay, he hasn't won this tournament, he's gonna go win this tournament. Oh, he hasn't won an indoor hardcourt title, he's gonna win this title.
Yeah,
and it's kind of like when he loses a set in these matches, you're like, all right, he's gonna win. Like
he's gonna win the next set.
So
I got a tough stat for you here, though, for Alex de Minaur against Sinner and Alcaraz combined. You know what his head-to-head is?
0-6.
0-12.
Oh,
because the bad one is and I think he's now 0-3 against Alcaraz. So actually, it's 0-13 because he's 0-10 versus Sinner. I didn't know that.
He gets matched up against him all the time.
Yeah, and then at the Australian Open, we were like, oh, maybe he's got a chance against Sinner. And that was one of the worst beatdowns. Like,
hey, we gotta find out some of these matchmakers though, because this seems a little rigged to have my guy playing him 10 times.
Yeah, just be like a battering ram. Like he got beat so bad, Pavi G came out of the woodwork and then got ratioed and then de Minaur came out with the most legendary ratios of the year. But anyways, I was impressed by de Minaur's playing that. It was 3 sets. It was really close. And he did well at staying up on the baseline against Alcaraz and taking the ball early. And Alcaraz is taking such big cuts at the ball. When you can counterpunch really quick, the ball, like there's times when de Minaur would like literally get the ball behind Alcaraz from the baseline because Alcaraz was like 3 feet in the baseline hitting a forehand, and then de Minaur would pick it up so well that it's like, oh, you're like just counterpunching. That takes a lot of hand skill and a lot of anticipation and ability. So he did well at that. It's just like, yeah, Alcaraz is he's a freak. So I just don't know really how to game plan. It's just like, yeah, go play your best and hope he's not at his best.
That's where I feel like Denis should be like at de Minaur's level.
Oh, for sure.
Like
de Minaur's level as far as like ranking and like ability to win.
Yeah, exactly.
But like if he can be consistent, like I think Denis has a higher ceiling than de Minaur.
He's got more weapons.
He's got more. It comes down to weapons, right? You have to be able to hurt opponents, and de Minaur can obviously, but his main weapon is his speed, which is the defensive thing. Yeah. So like Shapovalov's serve and forehand can hurt Alcaraz for sure, and but Sinner's. I will say Shapovalov's defense is not as locked down as de Minaur. So it's one of those things where I feel like the Sinner and Alcaraz, the Alcaraz and Shapovalov head to head, I don't even think they've ever played. But it could be like blowouts either way almost. Like I think on a quick indoor court, Shapovalov could beat Alcaraz like straight up, and then it could be pretty bad the other way on a clay court, for example. Like they have played once. Alcaraz beat 2023 Roland Garros. Yeah, Alcaraz beat in the round of 32, beat him 6-1, 6-4, 6-2. So pretty straightforward. Yeah. But Shapovalov was still dealing with the knee at that point. But that'll be interesting to see going forward. But yeah, Alcaraz beats de Minaur to win Rotterdam.
Youngest guy to win them all. Also, the last little shout out for Denis. I believe they said he was the first player since Kyrgios to beat 3 top 10 opponents on the way to a title.
That is true. I was trying to look that up, and then I saw Kyrgios retweet that from another account, and he's, finds a way to insert himself. He's like, shout out to Denis. I think they're cool. But yeah, that is the type of like that tennis from Denis this week is the type of tennis that Nick would bring in the past that would just upset everyone in the draw, because you're like, oh, this guy's serving lights out bananas. Yeah. And he's also got the touch in the field to back it up. And that's why Nick's, catapulted and beat essentially everyone in the game, because he's got one of the rare talents to do that. And Shapovalov also has that type of freaky ability. So yeah, that's a good stat.
It's gonna be a great spring. I cannot wait.
A great spring. I know. The next lineup we got 500. No, we got 250s this week, and then we got then 2 separate weeks of 500s leading up to Indian Wells and then Miami.
Boom.
So, because I think you got Rio and Doha on the men, Qatar, and then you've got Dubai and Acapulco. Yeah, I love all these tournaments, and they're all kind of in good time zones for us here.
It's the best time of year for us.
Yeah, and we are going to be like, okay, so for anyone who's following this, we may be in Indian Wells. We definitely will be in Miami.
Yes.
Not definitely, but like 90. I will like 99% be there. And our sponsor, our amazing sponsor, Betway, is going to be bringing us there, and we're going to be bringing content live from the grounds in Miami with Betway, doing some awesome interviews and getting in the mix. So stay tuned for that.
Which also, guys, if you're listening, let us know in the comments or tweet at us what questions you guys would want us to ask some of these players, because we will be around and this is the time to do it. We would love to ask some of y'all's questions to the players. But some people that probably wouldn't want you to ask their questions, Stephen, is the South Americans. I know they've been running rampant in the comments.
Yes.
What are some recent ones we have to look at?
Some of these are great. Because I made a video reacting to their reactions to my reaction to Garen, getting elbowed or shouldered in the head and falling down. And I would say the one that takes the cake here is, and again, we called for comments and reactions. Leave them below and we'll respond to them in the next podcast. And at the end of this, we'll also get to the one Twitter response we had and we'll answer his question, which is great. But Enrique Zieli, Enrique, great South American name, says, I know one doesn't matter, but I am unsubscribing. I will be waiting for your apology to the Latin football community and a clear the Belgian player should have been disqualified. You are still young and you will reflect on this with time. Kind regards.
Respectfully,
you are young and I will be waiting here until you get an apology. So
I just imagine him like meditating by a river, like for the next 30 years, like, and you're going to be on some trip down to South America and you're going to come to him like, what's his name? Enrique. He's going to be in the robe, have the staff. Like, he's not even going to turn around. He's going to say, Stephen, you finally made it.
I've come to my senses. I've come to my senses though.
No, because I wasn't able to, I don't know if it was just a reaction video that you made or if it was whenever it was, because I never got to speak on it. And I would 1000% agree with you, because that was, when I was watching the replay, I'm like, what are we doing? And the constant complaining, even after the fact, 2 days after, from Garen, from all the fans, I'm like, guys, have you guys ever like been outside? And the people that were commenting like, oh yeah, and guess what? That is a foul in soccer too. So like, you idiot, blah, blah. I'm like, oh, is it a foul? Here, let me show you a foul.
Well, that's like, the crazy thing about this is like, I get it. The South Americans, you don't like being categorized, which I did do. I said, this reminded me of the South American soccer players. I said also, and European. I categorize soccer globally because even the Americans and Canadians who play soccer at the World Cup stage become soft and they start flopping. It's just a part of the tennis culture, the soccer culture, which is what it is. But I come from a hockey culture in Canada, which is you don't exaggerate your injuries. And in my opinion, Garen was definitely exaggerating his injury. And I kind of almost respect that in a way. Like, you're trying to get the call, you're trying to get this guy disqualified. Cool. The umpire disagrees with you. You got to play. Like, he essentially quit on his country.
I know, that's the biggest thing. And it's like, man, there's just no way. Like, how many sports do we watch where there's just so many vicious hits and guys just pop right back up? And it's like, dude, if you get up and keep playing, because of how tennis is and like how people did view that as like a big hit, you become the biggest warrior to ever walk on a tennis court. Like, oh my gosh, how did he do this? How did he continue playing? But no, now we're on the wrong side of the history, posting photos from the hospital room.
Yeah, exactly.
You go into the hospital, you got bumped in your head.
Yeah. To be fair, I don't know if that actually was the hospital, was it?
Who cares, bro? It looked like a hospital.
It did look like the fact you're posting, it's like, I get it like that. It's just like, I would be upset as well, because the main reason is you just got broken and now the other guy's serving for the match. So you're probably losing anyway. So you're I get it. But I'm not, to answer your question, Enrique, I don't know if it was a question. Sounds like you've unsubscribed until I apologize. Will I apologize? I will not apologize for my opinion on this. I will apologize if I offended you. I don't want to offend anyone. But if the truth of what I'm saying offended you, I can't help that.
Mm-hmm.
And the truth is, Guerin was being soft. I would say it to his face. He'd probably beat me up because he's strong and tough. And I'm not saying South Americans aren't tough.
Right. But
it's a known fact that they flop in soccer, and that Europeans flop in soccer, and that everyone flops in soccer. And it seems like tennis players are even worse than that now. So anyways, I don't know. That's one comment. We'll react to that. We got a couple more that are pretty funny in here, JP.
How old is Guerin?
I would guess like 28, something like that.
So Stephen, how old are you?
30.
Guerin is still young. He will have time to think about this, and he will, whatever Enrique said, I wish I had it memorized, but that same thing will be said for Christian Guerin, which we would, like you said, we would love to have him on the show. This is not a Christian Guerin hate fest. Tip of the cap. You try to do your thing and get the call. You didn't get the call. That's when you just got to move on and just keep playing.
Yeah. But here's one more let's react to here, because this is about ice hockey in Canada and contact sports. I'm seeing all these words here. Concussion. I'm seeing all these things. So this is going to be a crazy comment from @NTNNOT. Are you blind and deaf? That's what he asks. Are you blind and deaf? Listen to the sound from the impact and look at the momentum, and what parts of the body made contact. A shoulder to head tackle with decent momentum. Something that's heavily sanctioned even in actual contact sports like ice hockey, quote, which you presumably know as a Canadian, quote, and rugby. But somehow this is okay in tennis. A joke. Check the incident again. Serious contact, shoulder to head, the most frequent type of contact / reason in the NHL that results in a concussion. And guys are wearing protective gear. JP, I'm going to let you respond to that first, just while I collect my thoughts.
I mean, let's see. This man, he wants what I don't understand is nobody is saying that like it was just fair play and like it should have happened, and that what's his face like should have hit him, and that it like wasn't whatever, wasn't like an accident, whatnot. The problem, we want to talk about concussions. Have you ever had a concussion, Stephen?
Probably, but I didn't go to the hospital because I'm Canadian.
Right, dude. I think I've had like 3 concussions.
Okay.
2 of them in football, 1 in soccer.
Yeah.
And soccer was like banging my head onto the ground. And what I watched on that screen, I guess Guerin is the only one who knows, but I'll be willing to put a lot of money up that was not a concussion, because, hey, newsflash, I don't think your brain is located right here. And if you're not getting hit hard enough, I don't think this taking a shot right here is going to be impacting anything up here. Now, if he got a concussion, I'm sorry.
I don't think he did. That would have come out for sure. They would have been like diagnosed concussion. And concussions, like anytime you hit it's a scale. Like anytime your brain gets rattled a little bit, it's not great. But the point here is like, and I'm not even saying like, my main point is not that I don't think Berg should have got disqualified. If he had gotten disqualified, I would have been like, yeah, you know what? I can see that. It's tennis. Like Djokovic got disqualified for like barely in anger hitting a ball back. And if you want to talk about anyone diving, that lines person is the ultimate softest person. Like Argentina, like South Americans roast her. Like she's way softer than any South American.
Right.
But Garen's just got to keep playing. That's my whole thing. He over exaggerated how bad it was. He didn't keep playing, and in my opinion, he knew. It's not like he was watching it happen. Like he knew that the guy was coming. I think he tried to let him hit him so that he would like draw a penalty. Like in basketball, it happens all the time. You're gonna go do a layup, you kind of like wait for the guy to run into your back. Like it's like we all know how it works. And you're telling me Garen didn't see this guy running straight towards him? I don't know. So anyways,
yeah.
I know what you mean. And like it's shoulder to the head is serious contact. But in hockey, if you're Canadian, they are moving way faster than what what's his nuts was moving, and the contact is a lot more serious. And there is contact to the head all the time in hockey that doesn't get called, or even if it does, they're not in concussions every time. Like it's actually pretty hard to get a concussion. So Garen's fine. I believe in my opinion here. He should have kept playing. He had an opportunity. Imagine how gangster it would have been. He went back out there, broke, and like won it for Chile. Like how sick would that have been? But we'll never know.
Well, dude, who was the girl that she posted a photo after taking a shot like to the eye with the ball, but I don't know if it was like a bloody or a black eye, and she was like, just another day at the office. And she like played through it, and they were like, I think this one maybe looks a little bit worse than Garen's. I'm like, yeah, fair play.
Yeah, fair play. And South Americans, I think we're just gonna have to agree to disagree,
right,
on the Garen situation. But I will not agree that I am discriminatory or anything to South Americans. I love it. If you can't take a joke, that's kind of proving my point that you might be soft. You can take a joke. You can make fun of Canadians as these dumb like iceberg chopping, igloo makers. That's pretty much true. And you got to be able to take a joke. So anyways, I think we can move on from that. That's 3 shows in a row we talked about it, but let's give some love to our Twitter question submitter. His is at WTJHD1JP, and he says, who's winning? Current form of Denis in Dallas versus Felix in Montpellier. Their head-to-head for you. Their head-to-head is 3 versus 3, 3-3.
You know where I'm rocking.
You're rocking with Dallas. Denis Dallas.
Yeah, for sure. No disrespect to Felix, but I've known Denis for longer, and that's where my loyalty lies no matter what. I don't care what the level is. I got to ride with the guys that I've been riding with.
Fair enough. I'll try and come at this from an objective analyst perspective. I do think the level that Denis brought is a lot higher than Montpellier for Felix, and that could just be because he played higher ranked opponents. Right. But Felix, didn't get pushed like Denis did in Dallas, so he wasn't. Felix's serve was essentially good enough to get him through these 250s. And who knows if he had played a guy like Ruud or like Fritz or like Tommy Paul there, like he beat, to be fair, he beat Tommy Paul in Adelaide, but that match was a pillow fight and not a high level between them. And Denis beat Tommy Paul in Dallas, and it was a super high level. So yeah, I definitely think the level that Denis brought there was higher. But again, Felix, our guy, that's not to say Felix can't bring that high of a level either, because they've had some really high level matches, and they're both, should be right up there in the top 10, in my opinion, when they're playing at their best. So thank you for the question.
Yeah. And I love that he threw their head-to-head record in there. That's going to add some nice little storylines to whenever the next time they play is.
Oh yeah. And they've been playing since they were like juniors as well. So like I believe they had a pretty good match in the 2018, or not a good match, actually, 2018 US Open. Felix had to like retire because he was having like heart palpitation issues. Yeah. Which I believe he had surgery for. But yeah, those are our Canadian brothers, and they're on the upward trajectory, which is great to see.
Love it. I think I'm good on my end, Stephen. We good to wrap it up?
I'm good on my end, JP. That was a solid episode. So thanks everyone for being here. Leave your thoughts, comments below. If you got more beef, South Americans, leave it below. We'll try and get to it in the next episode. If you have any questions, comments, thoughts, leave it below, and we will shout your name out and cover it in the next episode of the Slice Tennis Podcast presented by Betway.
Boom. See you guys next week.